I would like to start off by saying that I do not believe in the paranormal. I'm, I think, a clear thinker. I think I'm an analytical thinker. But in my 60 years of living, I've had 5 things that happened that I cannot explain. And tonight I want to tell you about one of those things. When I was about 20 years old, my mother at that time worked as a practical nurse. And what that includes was going to the home of some older people or sick people and staying there throughout the day and attending to their needs and also attending to the needs of the household. And sometimes it involved staying overnight when they were in worse condition or needed her to stay. She'd stay several days at a time without coming home. And I remember this one particular couple. They were the Joneses. They had an old southern home out on the Fort Payne Highway, and Mother stayed with them for several years. And the woman, Ms. Jones, was the first to die. They left Mr. Jones there by himself. Now, he had children that lived in the area, but had jobs, couldn't be there during the daytime, and couldn't be there sometimes at night. But Mother stayed with Mr. Jones after Ms. Jones died. And finally, after many months, Mr. Jones also died. The family appreciated Mother's help through all those years, really, helping with both their parents, that they felt like they wanted to do something nice for her. And they told her that they had no use for the old southern home that the Joneses lived in, and that if she would like to move into it with my father, they would make it very affordable. And it was a fine old home, so my mother and father decided to move into that home. Now, this would have been when I was off at college. Like I said, I was about 20 years old, and I was off at college when they moved into the house. I heard about it, them moving into the house. And I think the first time I came home was around Christmas time that year. And they had a bedroom set up that I could use and sleep in while I was there. And of course, I'd heard the stories and knew about the Mr. Jones and Ms. Jones, and I knew of their passing, and I knew of the deal about Mother and Dad moving into their now vacant home. But that's all I'd ever thought about it. I got up one morning, and if you've ever been in an old house, all the rooms kind of walk from room to room. You have very few hallways, and this one was that way. You would walk from the bedroom, maybe through the bathroom, through the kitchen, to the living room. And this particular old house, there on the back of the house, off from the kitchen, there was a sunroom that had lots of windows around it, and it was on the side of the house where you'd get morning sun, and it was a bright, pleasant room. So one morning after I'd come home, I got up and came through the kitchen and walked by the door that led out into the sunroom. And as I walked by, you know how you'll catch something out of the corner of your eye, and I saw enough out of my side vision, my peripheral vision, to know what I had seen. But my mother was in the living room, and already being up a while that morning, I knew she was the only person in the house. So it caught me by surprise, and I took a step back to see who was sitting in that sunroom off to the right. There was a chair sitting by the door facing the windows there as you walk by that area. So I took a couple of steps back and looked in the sunroom, and there was no one there. And Mother was in the living room, And I know I must have looked pale or concerned or something. And she said, "What just happened?" And I said, "Well, I just walked by that door and I saw a man sitting in that sunroom." And she said, "Stop right there." She said, "I'm going to tell you what he looked like." And she described him as, of course, an old man, balding, very frail. She described the shirt he had on. She described the color of pants he had on. She described where he was sitting. And she described, as best as I saw in that peripheral vision look at the person that was sitting out there, she described that person perfectly. Now, I know my mouth must have dropped open. And she said, "You just saw Mr. Jones." And she said every morning that he was able, up to his death, to get out of bed, I had to move him to that sunroom. And he wore the same clothes almost every day, his favorite clothes. He had several pairs of clothes, just like I've described. And he sat in that chair, and it was his favorite thing to do. And as a matter of fact, he was sitting in that chair the day he died. Now, that's my ghost story. And like I say, I don't believe in the paranormal, but I saw it with my own eyes, and I heard it with my own ears, her description of what I had seen, and I have no explanation for it.